I think we are live. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon from Houston. Good evening if you're watching in the UK. I am so excited to be joined today by Adele Parks, who is celebrating the release date of Lies, Lies, Lies here in the US, and Lisa Jewell, who is celebrating the paperback release of The Family Upstairs. Let me go ahead and do a couple bios real quick and we'll get to chatting. Adele Parks was born in Teesside, Northeast England. Her first novel, Playing Away, was published in 2000, and since then she's had 17 international bestsellers, translated into 26 languages. She's been an ambassador for the Reading Agency and a judge for the Costa Book Awards, and is a keen supporter of the National Literary Trust. She has lived in Italy, Botswana, and London, and is now settled in Guildford, Surrey, with her husband, son, and cat. Excuse me. Lisa Jewell is the internationally best-selling author of 18 novels, including the New York Times bestsellers, The Family Upstairs, and Then She Was Gone, as well as Watching You and I Found You. Her novels have sold more than 4.5 million copies across the English-speaking world, and her work has also been translated into 25 languages. So I'm so happy to be talking to you both. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Hello. Hello, Houston.
So where are you joining us from? You're both in the UK today?
Yes. I'm doing it from my home in Guildford, which is, to give you kind of geography on that, it's about half an hour outside of London. So for all intents and purposes, London. And Lee really is doing it from London.
Yes, I'm in the heart of central London. Yeah, no, this is my bedroom. So yes, my bedroom in North London.
So the world is pretty crazy right now. How are you both holding up?
So the first 3 months of lockdown, I was like, I so have this. I've spent 20 years of my career being in lockdown, because basically being a writer is, you know, you're at home a lot and your office is at home and all the things that everyone else has been told to do, like go and work from home. I was like, I've been practicing that forever. That's no problem. But I realized that the thing that keeps me working from home is the fact I can go into London once a week, or go to the theatre, go to the cinema, see my friends, drink a cocktail. And so by month 4, it's beginning to get a bit thin. And we're actually meeting this week, aren't we? We're actually having a social live where we see each other.
Yes, so we'd arranged to finally, you know, we've been dreaming about being able to actually see each other in real life post-lockdown. And we were going to meet in the restaurant that we always meet in for our breakfasts. And with like 5 days before Adele tried to book it, they shut down, which is just because of lockdown, because there's nobody going into central London at the moment, and it's a ghost town, and it's very depressing and sad. And I don't know what the middle of Houston is like. Is it the same?
I wish it was a ghost town. No one's doing what they need to be doing. So it would be great if it was a ghost town, but we still have traffic and all those things. Although central Houston, most everyone is wearing masks and doing what they should be doing. It's the outer areas
London,
that are problems.
Everyone's just staying in their areas in London, because everybody's working from home, so nobody needs to go into central London to go to their office. There's no tourists. Central London is normally like 60% tourists, so we haven't got any of those, and it's just dead. It's really sad. But anyway, we found somewhere that's still open in central London, and we're going to be meeting in real life.
Now you two have known each other for a while, right?
Yes. So I was published just a year before you, first novel. And have you caught up with me yet? Probably. You're much more prolific than
you actually said in the intro it was 17 novels. I'm actually 20 novels, 20 years. It's dead easy to remember.
That's what I thought. Yeah. So she's definitely caught up with me, because she's much
only got one child. So you've got 2.
Yeah. Anyway, so look, I have a prop, because look. Is that back to front on your screens? I don't know.
No, it's good. It looks good.
So I met Adele when she was the hot. So I'd had my year of being the hot new debut novelist in London, with Rouse Party, which was my first novel in 1999. So what year did this come out, Adele?
2000.
Yeah. So then Adele was the hot new debut novelist of the year 2000, and this book was such a big deal in the UK. Everyone was talking about this book. I'm just going to read what it says on the back, because it was. This caused a lot of conversation. I'm married, I said. I'm a tart, John smiled. Both the defense and the challenge, I simply can't resist. So this was just about a really grimy, filthy love affair that was just, kind of a really big deal. And yes, so first time I met Adele, there she was. She wasn't your average sort of like kind of straight-laced London novelist. No, she was yeah, well, you can see there she is. Gobby Northerner.
Yes. So
and yeah, we've known each other ever since.
yeah, so at the time we were published by the same publishing house, same editor, and it was interesting because Lisa's was literally the year before me, so I knew my book was coming up, and I remember walking around bookshops with my agent, and he'd pick up Lisa's book, Ralph's Party, and say, "Imagine if it went this well."
Yeah.
And we, you know, and I was like, "I'd like to meet her. Do you think we'll ever get to meet?" And then we had this party, and she could have been, she could have been horrible. She could have been like, "Don't want to know, I'm sorted." But actually she went, "Oh, these are all the things you need to know. And these are all the people that'll be nice. And these are all the people who won't." And she's just been invaluable all the way along. And so we've had some quite seminal moments. I remember us being at a library event, and we were 3 or 4 books in, both of us. And somebody said to us, "And how do you feel about being called chick lit?"
Oh, yes.
Do you remember we looked at each other going,
Yeah.
"Well, we're not.
We're not, exactly.
We're not. What are you talking?" We happen to be women who write books about, in those days, relationships. Before both of us kind of went a lot darker. But it was so, and I was literally stumped, and she knew I would say something rude or tactless because I've got a lot more tactful. And so she kind of dived in thinking, "I better take this one because you know what Adele will say."
So I wanted to ask you, Adele, because Adele and I have been on a similar journey. We started off writing romantic comedy relationship novels. We went through a period of writing family dramas, and we've ended up writing thrillers. And we've written a similar amount of books, although yes, Adele's written more than me, yes. But do you now think, and I've noticed this, that we have finally got rid of the chick lit tag?
Yeah.
As authors, not as a genre, but as us.
Yeah. I mean, it took some doing. I literally consciously went into historical novels and wrote novels about World War I, because I'm thinking, you know, million deaths, people will stop saying it's chick lit. I mean, yes. I consciously thought I would do that. And then because I had written about war and the aftermath of war, there were, you know, there was no way I was going back to, it all became naturally darker for me, which is when I sort of went into psychological dramas and domestic noir, whatever you want to call it. And so people have finally stopped saying that. I think actually it stopped being said. I think people now know that is completely unacceptable because there's no male equivalent, and so it's just sexist, and just stop it.
Yeah. But do you actually think chick lit exists anymore? Because we're clearly not writing it, and as far as we're concerned, we haven't been writing it for years. But is anybody still writing the sort of books that you and I used to write?
I think if chick lit is seen as very well written comedic books about relationships that are generally straight relationships as well, then they're usually heterosexual relationships, then I think those books still exist. But I think
people don't call them chick lit anymore.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, you know,
I would agree.
It only took 20 years to get rid of this awful thing that's been following us around. Thank goodness.
But
I've been.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. I was going to say I've been at the store since 2003, and that was a term that was often around at that point, and you rarely hear it anymore. People will ask for a beach read, or they'll ask for something with a little romance, you know, but a light book with some romance. But it's people know better, thankfully, I think, at this point.
But honestly, didn't it go on and on and on that
forever?
It really did. Oh. Well, hooray.
Actually, there's another part to it as well. And I really think this is one of the most exciting things for me launching in the US. And tell me if it's the same for you, Lisa. But launching in the US, particularly with domestic noir or psychological thrillers, everybody wants to talk about the issues in the book. Brilliant. Hurrah. Let's talk about the book. Where at home, and sorry, English readers, because I know you will be listening in too, everybody wants to talk about how many pairs of shoes I own, or how many times I've been married, or how many kids I've got. And it drives me mad because it wouldn't happen if it was a male author, wherein, you know, Lies, 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 there's all sorts of issues. And the obvious one is alcoholism. And people want to talk about that. And you go, yes, that's right, because that's what I've researched. That's what I've written about. That's the point of the book. There are no shoes in this book, you know. So,
sure, people are wearing them.
I was going to say, I presume people are putting shoes on. Yeah, but they're never mentioned.
Well, do you want to talk about Lies, Lies, Lies? Because yeah, Adele, I have to say, Adele is one of those, you know, when people say, name me a writer who you don't even need to read the back of their book in order to buy it and read it. You just author. And she is my author author. And I loved Lies, 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 but I'd love to hear Adele.
Bless her.
Explain it.
Okay, so it's about a couple. We meet them, they're sort of 15 years into their relationship, which when I published this in the UK, which was last year, me and my husband were married about 15 years at that point, and I kept saying at these events, so you know, the passion's kind of gone. And then I'd see his face and I go, but you know, they've moved on. And the point is, they have moved on. They've moved on to that very established part of your relationship where you have been through some bumps on the road. And for Daisy and Simon, the particular bumps are, they got married and they wanted to start a family. That was their aim. That's why they married. And out of those 15 years, they spent a decade trying to start this family, and it didn't happen. And they did IVF, and they tried all of the treatments and some woohoo treatments and some scientific ones, and then it was tearing them apart, so they give up. And it's at the point when they give up that Daisy falls pregnant. So when we meet them, their child is 5 years old, and that's lovely, and it should all be perfect, because haven't they finally got what they've been dreaming of? Except the 10 years wear and tear, the decade of trying to get pregnant, had a number of effects on the couple, but the most obvious one, and I don't want to give too much away, but the most obvious one is Simon is a functioning alcoholic at this point. He started drinking quite heavily, and now he's just simply drinking too much. And we meet them where they both had the same goal. They just love this little girl. She's, you know, their world. They want a perfect family, but, you know, we all know no such thing. And Simon thinks the only thing he hasn't given this child is a sibling. So he starts campaigning quite hard for Daisy and him to go back in the IVF programs and try again. And she doesn't want to know. I mean, two reasons. One, IVF is significantly harder on a woman's body than a man's body, clearly. And two, she's kind of thinking, you're a bit of a child yourself and you're an alcoholic and I've got enough on my plate. So she's not keen. But he's one of those men that thinks he can fix everything. So he takes himself off to the best doctor in the country and thinks, I'll get some tests, hear about any improvements that's happened in the last 5 years, and I'll get things moving. And this isn't a spoiler, it's only like in the first chapter or so. He gets told by the doctor, really sorry, there is absolutely no way you are ever going to have another natural child. It's just not going to happen. And you never have. And that's, yes, good woman, good woman. I want those eyes. Because that's, you know, it's called Lies, Lies, Lies. That's the first lie. I won't tell you the other two. That's the first lie. It's clearly, you know, he just didn't father that child. So who, what, why, where? It's told from alternating viewpoints from Simon and Daisy. You never know who to trust. You never know who to be, which team. You start off, because generally speaking, you're like, hey, I'm team Daisy, because she starts the book. And then you think, well, I'm not sure I am actually, if, you know, now I've got that bit of information. And it flip-flops all the way through. And it's about his alcoholism, just basically.
It really is massively about his, the way you describe it. I'm absolutely amazed that you've never lived with an alcoholic, because it reads like someone who's been at really, really close quarters with someone with a high functioning alcohol problem. So how did you? What did
I do?
Yes.
Okay, so I haven't
lived with an alcoholic for 6 months for research.
Yeah, just ditched the husband. Thought,
yeah.
Okay. Actually, it's interesting though, because I think all of us have a relationship with alcohol. Yes. So my husband's teetotal. And the very fact, I always go, well, that's just like blocking your ex's number on the phone. It means you think that person can still have an effect on you. So the only way you can deal with your ex is blocking their number. And I think him being a teetotaler there's something, and he would never accept that. He'd be like, no, I just chose not to drink. I was like, And I drink, and Lisa can vouch for this. I drink badly. So I can't drink much. I only drink champagne, which is hysterical as a line. I only drink champagne. But it's because about 15 years ago, I discovered drinking even one glass of wine gave me blackouts. Now, that's not great. That is just not great. There's something technically wrong with my body and alcohol. And so there were enough occasions where I would think, that didn't go well, or I can't quite remember that. And even things like business meetings back in the day when you might have a glass of wine with your lunch, and I'd come home and I think, I can't remember which cover we decided on, or, you know, like really quite serious stuff. So I definitely think I have a relationship with alcohol. So then I discovered that champagne, which in that, you know, and by the fact it is champagne, you don't drink much of, and you don't drink that often. So I can manage that quite well. But I did go onto lots of forums. I'm pretty straightforward about saying I'm a novelist, I'm researching this. Does anybody want to talk? Everybody wants to talk.
Right.
If you are living with an alcoholic, my gosh, you want to talk. Because you spend your entire life not telling your friends and going, there's no problem here, look the other way. And I was told some really devastating things. Like one of them in particular always strikes me. This woman, she was at a dinner party, and her husband got up to go at the loo, and he just couldn't find it. He's an alcoholic, and he was so drunk. He just weed in the dining room, like in front of all the other guests. And I said to her, what did you do? And she said, I ignored it.
Yeah.
And I said, well, what did everybody else do? And she said, we all ignored it. And I was like, that is the exciting and interesting thing. And actually the book is very much about the friendships and who confronts this and who can deal with it and who can't. And when his alcoholism literally takes them into free fall, who is prepared to face that? But there were a number of incidents like that, and people were sending me letters, and well, not letters because no one gets this anymore, but emails and talking to me. And it was just by going out onto Facebook and going and then finding some forums and yeah. But I'm glad you think it worked.
Oh, it's extraordinary, because we're actually making it sound like a book about a couple with an alcoholic husband who wants to have another baby, but it's obviously so much more than that. It is a proper thriller, and it's got twists and turns, and it's got, you know, gasp out loud moments and all that, but the energy that drives it is his descent into non-functioning alcoholism, and it's just filthy and it's grubby and it's horrible and painful to watch, but just you did it so brilliantly.
He has this the thing about the book, I think, it's about everybody's addiction, because actually Daisy has an addiction too. Daisy is so addicted to this perfect life that she will not confront any of the dark things that in the end creep up and make it a psychological thriller, including his alcoholism, but there are other things. And it is about, I think all of us are slightly addicted to something. Mine's work, by the way.
Yes, you are. So yes. You are.
What's yours, Lisa? What are you addicted to?
My addiction is, no, I don't have one.
I think it's.
I don't think I do. I don't think I do. I think I just like my life to be really simple and relaxing, and I'm quite lazy and I don't ask much of anyone, and I don't need much to fill my time, and I like a drink.
You know,
well, are you going to find me an addiction? Find me an addiction, Adele.
Well, only your dogs. I mean, I would say your pets.
My dog. Oh, yes, I'm addicted to my dog. Yes, my
But
God.
I would say it was quite, I always think this about our relationship and art. And Lisa at the very beginning said, oh, we've had very, very similar publishing journeys, which is terribly generous of her. But what I think is hilarious is we have completely opposite working practices.
Yes.
And views on life.
Yes.
We get on brilliantly well, we adore each other, but it's so true, isn't it? And I keep going, I want to be more Lisa, because she is so laid back and relaxed, and I'm not, am I? I'm a little.
No, you're not. I don't know, McKenna, if you've got like a list of questions there, and if you're going to ask us about how we write, and if that's in there somewhere.
Well, Yes, it is. And we have some questions from the comments about process. So I can set that up. Basically, I have the same question. So Rochelle asks about your plotting process. How much have you planned before you start writing? And then we also have Melissa who wants to know if you research your books before writing or if you dive into research as you need while you're writing.
Okay, well, I was watching The Hurt Locker the other day. Have either of you ever seen The Hurt Locker?
Mm-hmm.
So it's about bomb disposal expert in Iraq, American army. And there was this scene, and I just suddenly thought, that is how I write. So he's kind of a rookie bomb disposal guy. He's not terribly experienced, and he's kind of learning on the job. And he's been told that there's a bomb in this car that's parked out in the middle of nowhere. And so he gets all suited up with his, safety equipment on and his big helmet and everything. And he's got his, his huge box of tools. And he walks, he leaves all the other guys in safe distance from this car. And he walks towards this car and he doesn't know what he's going to find. And as he gets close to the car, he starts taking all his safety equipment off. And the guy in his walkie-talkie is saying, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And he says, "If I'm going to die, I want to die comfortable." And then he literally just opens the back of this car and just starts disassembling this bomb. And he doesn't know what he's doing, but he just knows that he hasn't got any choice. There's a bomb in that car. He's got to stop it going off. He's got some tools. He's got a vague idea of what he's doing, and he's just going to do it. And if he dies, he dies. And that's how I approach writing a book without the fear of death, obviously. In that I don't prepare. I just think, I've got a vague idea. I've got my tool bag. I've written books before, so I know kind of what I'm supposed to be doing. Got a vague idea of what the bomb might look like, the sort of metaphorical bomb. And I'm just going to go in there. I'm just going to go in there and start fiddling around with it and see what happens. And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. And that's how I write, like a rookie bomb disposal expert. There you go. So yeah.
Without the rookie, you're no way a rookie. No way.
Yeah, but I don't feel like I don't learn much each time. I feel like, because every bomb is different, every book is different, and they're all sort of slightly unpredictable, and you kind of, anyway. So I finally found the metaphor for the way I write, which is but it used to scare me that I wrote like that, but it doesn't scare me anymore,
Because it works, and that's
because I know it works exactly. Which is like the guy in The Hurt Locker. He's just like, I've done this before. I can make it work. So, Adele.
Awesome film, by the way, awesome film. Yes. Okay, so Lisa knows this because we have done obviously lots of events over the years together. So really early on, when I wrote Playing Away, my agent who took me on, who is still my agent now, said to me, "Oh, you could." Now I wrote that book exactly how Lisa's just described, where I just started like writing, and I kind of knew it was about a girl who looked as though she had everything, and then she kind of threw all her cards in the air and she'd just see what happened. And but he said to me, "Oh, you can really tell that you knew where it was going to end, because every word works so hard because you knew where it was going to end." And I thought, well, I'm not sure I did know where it was going to end, but that's clearly a tip for how real writers write.
Mm-hmm.
So I then thought, from then on in, that's what I had to do. So from then on in, I did always know my ending. And I do always know my ending, but I describe it as a bit like going on. So it's funny how we have like these analogies for how we work. And mine has a car in it too, but I'm not blowing my car up. I'm going on a journey, and it's like going on a road trip, and you know where you're going to end up and you know where you're setting off from, but I don't know what route I'll take. I might amble along and stop and see a few friends on the way and stay in some hotels and take 3 months to get there. Or I might bomb down the highway and get myself there at speed. I don't know. So when I start, I absolutely know what it's about and who it's about. I'm very keen on character, and I kind of interview my characters before I start writing. So I knew Daisy and Simon inside out. I kind of knew stuff that would never turn up in the book. I know Daisy's, I don't know, does Daisy, what's her first memory? What's the thing she's most ashamed of? I know what Simon's first kiss was, which is his favorite sibling. Those things are not going to turn up in a book, but I kind of interview my characters before I start, and I have quite a set process for that, so I know my characters. So I think I've got some buddies on this road trip with me, and they're gonna keep me going because I know them inside out, and I know where they need to end up, and I kind of know I obviously know the theme that I'm writing about, and then off we go. But the more I've done books with reveals and with twists or turns, although I will need to know more before I set off, because those to work for me, I need to know that they're realistic and that I can get people there with me. And my books, quite often, I think they're the kind you might get to the end and you go, you're kidding me. And then you read it back from the beginning and go, no, fair enough. Or you should, you should read it back and go, oh, okay, that all works. And you shouldn't go, well, that was a bit of a, that was a bit of a, you know, diversion, and that didn't really help. Everything should pan out, I hope.
But I would like to say, for anybody who's listening who's writing thrillers or would like to write a thriller, you don't actually have to know what the twists and turns are going to be beforehand. It is possible just to find them on your journey, on your road trip. They can just sort of present themselves. So
they really can.
Both ways work.
Yeah, both ways work. And there'll be 100 other ways. And
100 other ways, yes. Indeed.
Yeah, because also people talk about, do you write in a chronological order? And I go, I try to, but then if I get to a bit and I think this is boring me right now, I don't really want to write a restaurant scene, I want to write a fight scene, I might jump ahead and write that scene, and it may or may not actually end up in the book, but I just feel quite good because I've done a bit of a day's writing. And so, but other people might tell you, no, I'm absolutely chronological.
I'm chronological, yeah. If you read one of my books, you're reading the book in the order in which I wrote it. Yeah, I could never skip a chapter. I would be lost if I skipped a chapter.
But that's because you haven't got,
because I don't know what, exactly, I haven't got a roadmap. Exactly. I'll just be wandering off into the woods somewhere, never to be seen again. Yeah.
So you both mentioned characters. Adele, you said you know your characters before you start, but I always think it's interesting how authors respond to this question. Was there a moment in your writing where you had a plan for the character and the character said, nope, that doesn't feel right to me, and you changed direction because of what felt right for the character?
That can happen, however well you know them, because let's face it, that can happen with your friends. In fact, my friends are really annoying because they do not follow my life plan. They do not understand that I have a life plan for everybody, because we're all like little puppeteers and, you know, controllers. But joking aside, so this book, I mentioned, it's about friendships. The friends kept saying, we're more important than you think we are. And they were important, and they are kind of the savior of Daisy. When you start to read it, Daisy is a little bit annoying, to be honest with you, to start with, I'm just saying. Vaguely sanctimonious, but the very fact she has these amazing friends, you kind of think, okay, anyone with that good of friends has had to have done her time as a decent human being, because that's how life works. And these friends kept wanting to kind of save her and save the situation, but they also kind of kept upping the ante. So I think they called to me, and I loved them. And interestingly, and I don't know if you noticed this, Lisa, because they are completely standalone books, but they are the same cast as the people in the Playing Away book that you...
I didn't pick that up, but I've seen it in online when people have been talking about lies, that they've recognized the characters that were in Playing Away, really, but I missed that.
Yeah, really different type of genre. So Playing Away was about this mad affair by this woman Connie. She was the main character, and in the background, as part of the device, was this really sweet couple that met, fell in love, got engaged, got married over a period of a year, and in that year she kind of fell into descent as they were ascending, and that ascending couple as Daisy and Simon. And they were like these little background characters saying, oh, you know, I can't wait to start a family, and I'm really looking forward to being married. And I remember like 17 years later thinking, yeah, let's see how they're faring.
Let's see how that smug couple are doing.
I'll show them.
Yeah, no, but I always leave leeway for all my characters to surprise me. I always let them, show me the way, and which is another reason why I don't like to plan in advance what I'm doing, just in case the characters disagree with the direction I want to take them in. And yeah, they're constantly surprising me. There was a book I wrote called The Girls in the Garden, and there's a character in it called Leo, who's like the creepy dad in the communal garden, who's a little bit too friendly with all the teenage girls. And something bad happens to a teenage girl right at the beginning of the book. And in the back of my mind, I just assumed it would be him. And I wrote him really creepy. But then as it got closer to the end, I thought, you know who he reminds me of? He's more like Phil from Modern Family than a than a depraved like paedophile. I just thought, no, he wouldn't do it. Leo wouldn't do it. So then I had this frantic, this awful, I've got this notebook somewhere with like this scratchy writing all over it, where I was desperately trying to work backwards through the book to think, well, if it wasn't him, then who the heck was it? And had to like find another person within my cast of characters who could have been capable of doing that and had the motivation to do it. So yes, that can definitely happen.
So I'm going to interrupt to do just a little bit of housekeeping right now. A lot of people join us on this a little bit late and they wonder how they can catch it from the beginning. So if you're watching on Facebook right now, you can come back to the same spot where the live videos are. After this is done, you can watch it from the beginning, or we'll get it uploaded onto our YouTube channel, Murder by the Books YouTube channel, where we have all of our author events. That should be up within a day or two, so you can check it out there. We are talking with Adele Parks about Lies, 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 which just came out today, and Lisa Jewell about The Family Upstairs and Adele Parks. Lisa, would you mind taking just a second to tell us about The Family Upstairs?
Yes, so there we go. It's always nice to have a prop. That's The Family Upstairs. And it's a novel about a young woman called Libby. She's 25 years old. She's classic millennial, kind of, you know, has managed against all the odds to buy herself an apartment in this, you know, this world in which people of her generation can't afford to buy property. But because she's just a hard-working, sensible, level-headed girl, has bought herself this tiny apartment. And she's just settled into this apartment and she's just turned 25. And she was adopted as a baby, and she's always known that her birth parents had something in trust for her 25th birthday, but she never knew what it was, and she's never really known much about her birth parents because her adopted parents only gave her very minimal details. And she was told they died in a car crash. And so we first meet Libby just after her 25th birthday, opening an envelope from a firm of solicitors in Chelsea, London, informing her that what she has inherited is a 8-bedroom mansion in Cheyne Walk, Chelsea, overlooking the River Thames. Multi-million pound property, you know, incredible. She goes to see the property and it's been neglected, it's boarded up, it's been empty for years and years and years. And the solicitor who's showing her around the property tells her the story of how she was found in this property as a baby in her cot, clean, well-fed, well cared for by 2 policemen, while downstairs on the floor in the kitchen are 3 dead bodies dressed in black robes and a slightly peculiar suicide note. So it's really the story of Libby, acting detective, trying to find out what the heck her backstory actually is. How did these people die? Who were they? And there were also 4 teenagers living in the house at the time that she was a baby who've never been seen since then. They've just disappeared into thin air. So it's mainly about her unraveling this dark history, but it's also about a young boy called Henry who in the late 80s and early 90s is living in an 8-bedroom mansion in Chelsea overlooking the River Thames. Could it be the same house? It might well be. And so he's telling the reader the story of what happened at the same time as Libby's unfurling the secret for herself. He's telling the reader exactly what happened when this family called the Thompsons moved in and changed everything in a very dark and twisted manner.
Dark and brilliant and heartbreaking and all sorts of other things, because it is actually, I think it's a brilliant title, The Family Upstairs, because that shows the spookiness, but also it is a story about a family. And,
very much so, yeah.
And it is heartbreaking and very harrowing, but in a really good way. But you need the lights on when you're reading it.
Yes, so. It's quite gothic. It is quite gothic.
Well,
great.
that black dressed family is certainly creepy when you read it. But Christy would like to know that she said she loved the family upstairs and wants to know if you're planning any type of follow-up.
Yeah, I hadn't deliberately. I mean, I've always say no. I will never do a sequel. I will never do a sequel. I did a sequel to Ralph's Party. So Ralph's Party was my first novel that I mentioned earlier, and I did a sequel 10 books later called After the Party, which I never liked. I don't know why. I don't know why I said I would do a sequel, because I didn't in any way. So that just proved my point to myself. I shouldn't write sequels. And so I've always said I would never write a sequel. But then I wrote this unexpected chapter on the end of this. So it was there's a scene in the end where the family, it's not a spoiler, but they're all sitting in a restaurant and all the loose ends have been tied up and it's all rather nice. And then I wrote this, I just suddenly had this urge, this very strong feeling that I needed to write another chapter. And I wrote it very, very quickly. And as I got to the end of the chapter and I got to the last 2 lines, I just thought, oh, I suddenly realized I'd written myself into another book by accident, completely by accident. I never had any intention of writing it as a book that should have a follow-up. But yeah, so I got to those last 2 lines and thought there's a whole other book here waiting to be written. And I very much intend to, and please, if I don't do it, God, I'm going to get so much flack. But at the moment, I'm halfway through another book. And my intention at the moment is to start writing the sequel in 2021, which will be published in 2022. But please don't shout at me if I don't.
And while we have you, before we get back to Adele, for just one quick second, you have a book coming out shortly yourself, a new hardcover?
I have a book coming out in the UK on Thursday. So it's actually my UK publication week this week, which is very exciting. But sadly, America, it's not coming out in America and Canada until the 13th of October. And this is it. Invisible Girl, it's called. And yeah, so that comes out on the 13th of October, and it's I won't go into a long spiel about what it's about, but in a nutshell, my working title for this book was Creep, and that's what I essentially wanted to write, a book about a creepy guy who puts everybody on edge, and I wanted to get inside his head and tell a story from his perspective. So it's about this guy called Owen, who's just never, ever been comfortable in his own skin. And he just comes across really badly to women. And he's still a virgin and he's living with his aunt. And then a teenage girl goes missing opposite his apartment at midnight on Valentine's night. And for various reasons, the spotlight falls on him. So it's sort of...
so he doesn't turn into Phil Dunphy this time.
No, he does not turn into Phil Dunphy this time, no.
I will say, so I write a column for Monthly Magazine, and it is my book of the month this month because it's another awesome one. And again, it's so funny, Lisa saying very kindly that she always just picks mine up and would read them. And I've said to everybody, don't send me any books for this column unless you send me a physical copy, because I'm sick of being on the screen during lockdown. So I'll read a physical copy and I'll review that, but I'm not interested otherwise. And Lisa's publicist said, no, we can't get them. And I was like, it's fine. It's fine. I'll read hers on the screen. That's not a problem. And Lisa is one of the only people that I will literally sort of read round the clock. And want, like, it always annoys me when people go, I read it in a day. They think it's a huge compliment, but you go, God, it took me forever.
It took me so long to write it.
I would sit and read Lisa's in a day if I possibly can. And also, Lisa, I've had this moment where one time I was having my hair dyed, and you know when they do all the foils and you're in quite a difficult position, and I had like the old brick phones because it was a while back, and I was like, don't take them off. I need to ring my friend because I literally just finished one of her novels. I rang her up to go, no, this is amazing. This is amazing. I'm actually tearful. And she kept saying, you're just hormonal. You're just hormonal. And I was like, no, it's just fantastic. It's just amazing.
I do actually remember that. I remember you saying, I can't talk long. I'm in the hairdressers, but I've just finished your book.
Yes. And you're like, are you hormonal? I was like, no, I'm excited. So, yeah.
So do either one of you have some kind of special routine to your writing, music or beverages or a special place, or do you just sit down and go to it?
I'm not particularly precious about it. This is my room. This is where I write. I'm on the edge of my desk at the moment, and I would normally be on the side of my desk. And so it's a really lovely converted bedroom that's my office. And I prefer writing in here than anywhere else, but I will write in other places if people need me to. You know, if like I'm on holiday, I can write there, although I probably shouldn't, but I'm addicted to working. And I mean, I'll have a cup of tea in the morning, but I think that's just normal. I don't think it's part of my routine. And I prefer it quiet, but if somebody's got some music on, it won't kill me. I don't really have a way of doing it. I just do it. What about you, Lisa?
Yeah, no, I'm kind of the same. What I have worked out, which has made a huge difference to my ability to produce the word count that I want to produce every day, which, if anybody's wondering, is 1,000 words a day. I can sleep at night if I've written 1,000 words and not just lie there hating myself. But so one thing I've really worked out over the years is that I always thought the morning, because I'm a morning person, so I thought I should be writing in the morning because I'm a morning person. But actually, if I start writing in the morning, I feel bogged down all day by all the things that I need to do. And I keep getting distracted and thinking, oh, I just needed to go onto that website and check such and such, or oh God, that email I got last night, I need to reply to that, or there's, oh, I need to put a wash through. So I don't start writing until I've done as much as I possibly can in terms of housework, emails, housekeeping, to-do list stuff. So that is.
Mine's the opposite. So mine is the morning, and I prefer it. But I think it's because, so my kid's 19 now, he's all grown up and done. He's saying done, just done.
Never going to see him again.
Done. Because I have done 20 books in 20 years, he's clearly been very much a part of everything and the routines and all the rest of it. And I've just always found a way, the way Lisa has, of, you know, it's quite a privilege to be a writer, actually, because you can usually do the mumming bit as well as the career bit, because it is flexible. So on the whole, my husband would walk my kid to school, his kid too, so, you know, he would walk the kid to school. And so I would have the house to myself on a morning. So that would be quite nice. And Jim would go and do whatever he does and do his job and things like that. And so I would have it quietest in the morning. And I like that to be over, so that I would go and do pickup generally. And, you know, they finish school at, I don't know, 3 o'clock at some point. And then as they get older, 4, 5, whatever. But so I'm better in the morning. And I like to have done my 1,000 words. I do 1,000 to 2,000. I never do more than 2,000. Even if it's going brilliantly, I will just stop and go, I'm done.
No, I totally, yes. I always used to think that the more words you wrote in the day, the better a writer you were. But no, you really don't need to write that many words. It's not necessary. Look, basically, if you write 1,000 words a day, you've written a book in 80 days. So really, writing 3,000 or 4,000 words a day is not.
My book's longer. How can you do 80,000 words?
Well, maybe they're not 80,000. Maybe there are. I don't know how many words. I do pages. I don't know how many words they are.
Okay, so
I don't know how many words.
I don't know.
I'm going
1,000 a day until it's finished.
All right, so this will be interesting given how different your personalities appear to be. So in what ways are you similar to your main characters, Libby and Daisy? Or different?
I'm nothing like Daisy. Oh, Daisy is so boring. I mean, don't let that put you off the book. She's not boring, but Daisy is quite
uptight.
And you might have noticed I'm not at all.
No, you're not.
I literally wear my heart on my sleeve, and I've nothing to hide. Everyone can know me, blah. And she is literally the opposite. She spends her life locking everything down and appearing perfect and keeping secrets and caring what everyone thinks. I don't think I do much of that. I probably do. But so I don't think I'm at all like Daisy. I think I would love to be like Lucy, who's one of the characters. She's just awesome. Lucy is me, like when I grow up, which will probably never happen. Right, you with Libby, I don't think.
No, I wanted Libby to be pure. I just wanted her to be pure and untainted, with no backstory and no agenda. I just wanted her to be a sweet, sweet girl who was working hard and just trying to get on with her life and trying to meet a man, and then for it all just in an instant to be turned inside out and get very, very dark for her.
I
So,
actually think,
yeah,
considering how many
nothing.
books we've both written, it would be quite boring if we were still writing about ourselves.
Exactly. I mean, there is that's the cliche, isn't it? Is it the first novel tends to be the autobiographical one.
Mine was my fourth.
But then you don't keep doing that over and over again. You do it once, you get it out of your system, and then you start writing about other people, because that's the fun bit.
Yeah, you see, I didn't write about myself on the first one. But on
So you say. Nobody believes you to this day.
No, nobody believes me, except like the people who knew me at the time.
Yeah.
But the fourth one was a shocker, because I was newly divorced, which hadn't been my plan, and dating this really nice, really hot guy who I thought, well, this is my fling. This is like my get over the very sad 7-year relationship that's gone wrong and left me with a small baby. And a year in, I was thinking, oh, this might be it, which it is, because that's my husband. And then I had to like get to the end of the year going, yeah, I kind of wrote us up. And he was like, what do you mean you wrote us up? So I was like, you probably should read it. And I had split myself into 2 characters to kind of disguise me from my mom and dad. So my mom and dad didn't know what I'd been up to. But hadn't given him the same kind of dignity, and had just put him out there. And his name was Jim Pride, and I just called him Jack Hope. I didn't even really try that hard, you know. I was not inventive. And at the end, he was like, you didn't even change my t-shirts. Like, there's nothing about that. He was like, you're so lazy. Anyway, it did very well as a book. So anyway, and it's good for his book. I reread that book to like, it's a nice book to look back on. But yeah. So I have done it, but I haven't done it for a long time. Not for a long time, no.
Yeah. Well, I figured that would probably be the case, but either way, it's a good question to set people up to talk about that. So here's a 3-part reading question. So who are some of your favorite writing influences? Who are some of your favorite authors? And then what have you read and loved recently? Clearly, you both love each other's books.
Very much so. Oh yeah, where is it? Have you got the other one, Adele? Oh, when's it coming out in America? The other one, Adele. Hang on.
She's doing so well. She has a beautiful bright yellow skirt on. She's not wearing pajama bottoms for this.
Yeah.
I could have been, and I could have been.
You could have.
You'd have just had to deal with it.
Yes, so that was one of the best books I read recently. That's fantastic. When is it coming out in America?
This time next year. Well, a bit earlier.
That's amazing. So there's 2 parts. There's the influences and favorite authors.
So influences might be someone that you consider influenced your writing or made you want to be a writer, but that's not necessarily a favorite author that you read now.
Yeah. I had a very specific conversation with a friend when I was a secretary and I just lost my job, and I just read High Fidelity by Nick Hornby. And I remember reading this book, and I was doing a creative writing course every Monday night in a local adult education college. But I hadn't really thought that I was going to write a book. I was 26 years old. I thought I had no place at all. You know, it'd be unthinkable for me to write a book. But I remember reading that and thinking, you know what, I think I probably could write a book, because I just felt so, it was so immediate, and it was such a familiar voice. And he was writing about a world that I completely connected to. And it wasn't literary. I'd been reading so much literary fiction before that point. And I remember thinking, maybe I could try writing the female version of that. So in terms of an actual influence that got me writing, it doesn't come more immediate than that. It was just, that was why I started writing my first novel, because of High Fidelity by Nick Hornby. What about you, Adele? Was it Rouse Party by Lisa Jewell?
Yeah. Mine was this is why we always laugh whenever we do events, because I'm completely the opposite. I wanted to be a writer from being 5-year-old.
Yeah.
And I used to write stories for my granddad and make little books, and he would pay me. He actually wanted me to shut up, I think, because I was slightly hyperactive, just saying. So he would spend the weekend going, tell you what, you produce a book this weekend and I'll give you pocket money at the end of the weekend if I like the book. So I knew there was money in it. 10p, I'm just saying. So I always knew I wanted to be a writer. So and my life was all great and everything was going lovely until I was about 27. So about the same time as of Lisa, when very sadly in my family, we had a number of deaths in our family in a very short period of time, in my family and also in my friends and colleagues. And when I say number, I mean a high number in a very short period of time, like 11 months, and quite dreadful ones, like 2 to AIDS, 1 murder, a suicide, like very frightening at 27, and I couldn't cope. And I was I worked for Accenture, the management consultancy, and I loved my job, but it was I looked after the advertising for Europe, Middle East, Africa, and India. So I was always traveling. And I was really quite a nervous wreck and didn't believe the world was decent and kind and good anymore. And what was the point of it all? And I went to a grief counselor who said to me, find something small that will make you happy. And I said to her eventually, oh, well, I used to think I wanted to be a writer and actually I do this scribbling. And I pulled out of my bag this book of notes, of just full of notes. And she was like, yeah, how many of those have you got? And I said, oh, about 30. She's like, you probably should do more of that. And because my life was quite grim at the time, I wanted to do something completely different. And at the time, Bridget Jones' Diary was huge, everywhere, massive, because it's funny and brilliant and
so brilliant,
gorgeous, and hard to do humor actually. But it's all about a woman finding a husband, and I already had a husband, not the one that lasted, but still one. And because I already had this husband, I remember thinking, what happens to all those women that have bought Bridget Jones' Diary once they are married? What are they reading next? Because they clearly read Bridget Jones' Diary because they related to it. They related to the calorie count and the mad evenings out with your friends, and they're looking for the men. And I thought, I'm going to write the book about the first year of marriage. Not everybody's marriage, but a kind of fun, but throw the cards in the air kind of marriage. And so I have to say, I suppose it would be Helen Fielding's Bridget Jones' Diary. And certainly I used that on my pitch. When I pitched for this agent that I mentioned, I pitched with a 10-word pitch because I'd read an article that he said he was he's our agent. We both are represented by him.
Yes, the same agent.
And he at the time, and he was only very young and starting his career, he said, I'm always paraphrasing, but he did say, I'm a very busy and important man. If authors can't talk about their work, I can't help them. So I pitched with a 10-word pitch thinking, oh my gosh, this man has no time. Turns out he is now a very busy and important man. But can I say 20 years ago, he was as junior as the rest of us, just saying. But my 10-word pitch was Anna Karenina meets Bridget Jones, but heroine gets to live. So I guess those are my two influences. Clearly, I do not think I'm Tolstoy. But no one thinks Peasant Revolt. Everyone thinks Passionate Affair when you think of Anna Karenina. I'm just saying. Mm-hmm. Spoiled it if you haven't read it, just saying. But I think that, but really Helen Fielding. Long answer.
Excellent.
Yeah. And now, authors that I love, apart from Adele, I love Ruth Ware.
Well, you do that, I'm going to get my pile.
Ruth Ware, Louise Candlish, Claire McIntosh.
Yes.
What have you got?
Yeah, I was going to say all of those are good, but these are my last three that I've read. They are. Yes. But Susie Steiner.
Oh,
have I not heard of her?
Susie Steiner, yes, yeah.
Oh, have I not? She's brilliant.
So now I've got on my pile. I'm going to put that to the top.
Oh my gosh, put it to the top. She's great. And I hadn't heard of her or read her. And then this was sent to me and I read it and I love it.
Harriet Tice as well.
This is an oldish one now, but it's brilliant. This is also...
Yeah.
Oh, Lucy, she's doing really well in America, isn't she, Lucy?
We can't get her books back in stock. I mean, there was like a month reorder process. They're finally shipping, but we've had books on back order for ages. That book has just taken off. Yeah, she's wonderful.
Fantastic.
I'm not telling you this. This is mine. It even hasn't so yeah, the guest list I really enjoyed, and this is this woman's Lou and Goldie. So this is her second novel, and I came across Lou in well, we've both done this as well. I judged for an award in the UK called the Costa Award, and I judged short stories, and it's a great competition because the short stories come to you completely blind. So you don't know the gender, the age, anything about the people who are presenting these short stories. And actually, Lewin won one year, a few years back, about 2 or 3 years back, and maybe must be more, must be 3 or 4 now. But then got a book contract, and now this is her second book. And I just really like the way she writes. Again, she sort of writes about relationships, but puts them in, like, this takes us to Kenya. So, you know, it's just a bit different. But those just happen to be the last 3 books I've read.
This is called The Push.
Okay. Oh yeah,
that is amazing. Yeah. It's a bit. We need to talk about Kevin-esque. Yeah, it's about a woman who has a daughter, and the daughter is very dark, and we're never quite sure what this child is capable of. I read that in a day. That was amazing. Ashley Audrain.
I just ordered that. I think it comes out in a few months here, but yeah, I
really
thought it looked
fantastic. Great. 4th, oh gosh, not till the 4th of January. Sorry, everyone, getting you all excited.
Yeah. Well, that actually kind of brings us to time. Is there anything else you ladies wanted to talk about? No, we're good. We've talked it all out.
I think we've talked it all out.
We've talked it all out.
We could keep going. We once went on tour together, and we were like on endless buses and trains, and just never ran out of things to say, did we? Do you remember?
We didn't go on tour. We went to Preston once.
No,
I got on tour with somebody else. You didn't go on tour with me. No, we went to Preston.
We did. We went to Preston, which was the start of it, but we did do lots that year.
Yes. Yeah. The thing is, in the UK, you don't do a tour like you do in the States. You go to sleep in your own bed every night.
When you get,
But you go somewhere and then you come back, because nowhere is far enough away that you actually need to stay the night, really.
You're on bed.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up then. So we would love nothing more than for you to order copies of Adele Park's new book, Lies, 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 or Lisa Jewell's new one, paperback, Family Upstairs, or to pre-order Invisible Girl, right? Invisible Girl? Yes. So those are in the comments on Facebook Live. John has been diligent behind the scenes putting links in there for us. If you are enjoying our events and for some reason you either have the books already or you can't swing getting these books right now, we do have a virtual tip jar. There's a lot of time and energy that goes into these, and we would appreciate your support in any way possible. Again, please buy the books first. But if that doesn't work, we would appreciate anything you can send our way to keep these events coming. Thank you both for joining me tonight or this afternoon to talk about your books. It's been an absolute delight. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you so much for having us. Thank you so much. And your dog's been very well behaved.
I was just thinking about the dog.
She has,
gorgeous. Thank you.
She has just finished her 3rd rawhide chew. I mean, we're going to have a disaster later, but I have been bribing her this whole time to be quiet.
Oh, well, it worked. She's been.
Yeah, she's fine.
Oh!
Yeah, so she's been a good girl.
Yes, gorgeous.
Well,
thank you so much for having us, McKenna.
Yes.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
And you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Adele, I'll see you on Friday. Bye.